All right. Well, welcome everyone. Looks like it is just about 2 o'clock Mountain Time, which would be 3 o'clock Central Time, which is my time zone. Oop, there I am. Um, which would be, uh, let's see if we can do some math. 4 o'clock Eastern Time and 1 o'clock Pacific. So yeah, let's get started. This is DES 314, Advanced Color Theory. And we are in our second week, our first session, and I am indeed in a place where it is quite chilly. So if you're thinking, my, she looks bundled, you would be correct. I have my fingerless gloves on, I'm wearing a hat, I have a vest on, and actually I kind of love it all because I am somewhere that's been like unseasonably warm for a bit. And so it finally got cold today, and I was like, yes, taking out all the winter gear and wearing it indoors apparently. Even though I guess I don't necessarily need it inside, it just feels good to be kind of good and wintry since I haven't had that for a while. So anyway, looks like I think we have a couple students here. Excellent, very nice. So yeah, how are you guys doing? You can type in the chat box or feel free to chat away. Sorry, let me just move myself. So many things to navigate. Let's see. Virginia weather is kooky. Are you in a swing where it is currently cold or where it is currently hot? I will say that well, as recently as like 2 days ago, here in Chicago, it wasn't warm by any means, but it was very like kind of humid, and so it just felt weird. It was like that weather where you're like, ooh, if this stays for a while, everyone is going to get colds because like it shouldn't be quite this warm. But anyway, glad it's cold now. Let's see. It snowed this AM. I'm not ready for it, but it is what it is. Yes, yeah. I have several. I have several friends that live in Canada, in Alberta, so kind of directly north of Montana. And yeah, it's seeing what they've been getting in weather and having them send me pictures. I'm like, in like the yay, it's getting cold phase, and they're like, okay, it's already snowing, and we're ready for like a trip to someplace warm. So it's interesting to see how interesting to see how everything shakes out. Very cool. Well, if you are watching via video and you are in a cold place, hopefully you have a warm space to watch from. And conversely, if you're one of the people who is joining us from a warmer climate like Arizona, by all means, go out on your patio this instant and soak in some sun, get some warmth, and know that, yeah, everybody here is like, enjoy it for sure. Invite us over. Oh, one thing too, if you are watching this and you are from Arizona, you probably don't need me to tell you this, but you are now on Mountain Time Zone. So just kind of know that you and Independence University, lucky you, are on the same time zone. So adjust accordingly. I know I have friends in Arizona, and it's always like this weird thing because I'm in Central Time Zone. So, you know, part of the year they're in Pacific, and then part of the year they're in Mountain, and it's like they never change, but the rest of the world does. So always kind of take note of that as well. But if you're watching via video, maybe it doesn't matter. But still, just good to be aware of. All right, well, we will turn off the camera. Good to see everybody as usual, and jump into the slides, and we'll even do the fancy full screen. Oops, I guess that didn't work. If it doesn't work, we won't do it, but let's see, full screen mode. Oh yeah, a little bit more ambiance this way. Looking a little bit more formalized, a little bit more fancy. All right, so let's take a look at our agenda for today. Let me actually just take 1 second and plug in my computer because I have a feeling it's not going to last the duration. All right, so here is our agenda for today. We're actually, the more I think about it, the more I think we're going to kind of flip things a bit. But we have what we are scheduled to cover is going to be review. So kind of just reviewing content from week 1, just to kind of make sure everybody is somewhat on the same page. Then we're going to talk about color vibrations, what that means, why that's not such a positive thing, and kind of how to fix it. And then we're also going to do feedback on assignment 1, which were the business cards for artists and all that that entails. So review, vibrations, and feedback. And we're probably going to just, well, maybe switch around the ordering just a little bit, depending on how things go. So a couple of things. We have some learning objectives that are also going to kind of direct us this week. So the first one is discuss how color choice impacts consumer purchasing and audience appeal. Number 2, we're going to apply appropriate color usage proportions to illustrate 3 abstract color relationships. And then number 3, discuss the role color plays in the 5 design elements, which are line, shape, color, value, and texture. So I think in week 1 we had like 6 learning objectives or something. It was quite large. This week we're going down to 3, so hopefully you guys look at this and you think, okay, this feels slightly more manageable. Good things to get your heads around and such. All right, so let's look at a little bit of review. I think what might make the most sense is if we start out with review and then jump into a little bit of the assignment feedback, and then go into color vibrations. That seems like it would have a good overall flow to it. So we'll go with that. All right, so first of all, what is color theory? So it looks like we have a couple people who are here who could, in theory, type things into the chat box, or as usual, I hate to put you on the spot all the time, so you can participate to the level that you would like. But yeah, so what is color theory? I remember in week 1 we had a big, long definition, and then we also distilled it down to something that was a bit more manageable. So do you remember, does anyone remember? If you're watching via video, you can also kind of take a couple seconds and think, what was color theory again? And doesn't week 1 feel like a very, very long time ago? So just a couple seconds, think about it. Okay, so general consensus from the students in the chat box, yes, week 1 feels like a long time ago, perhaps, or that would be a yes to a definition. Let's see, color theory is the idea of how colors work, how color has relationships that work and those that don't. Some are in love while some bicker. Ooh, I like that. I like that idea. And very, very true, I think, in a lot of ways. Okay, so color theory, basically kind of color relationship seems to be the general consensus. So here is our big, long definition. Color theory is a set of guiding principles that can be used to create harmonious color combinations. These ideas are represented in a variety of diagrams, color wheels, triangles, and charts that help designers understand color interactions, select and combine colors, and construct pleasing and effective color palettes. So guiding principles is kind of something that we emphasized. Let's see, last week was forever ago. Yes, yeah, exactly. So we came up with the idea kind of, I'm starting, the more I read your guys' definition, the less I'm like feeling the love for my own. But that's okay, it's good. We're all kind of constructing and contributing to what we put into the course. But so yeah, so color theory, you can kind of think of it as guiding principles for harmonious output. So just like we were saying, you know, color relationship, what works, what doesn't, what is in love, essentially, what is probably going to be fated for a lifetime of conflict and bickering, and those sorts of things, kind of how that can integrate into the color relationship, and then into the design relationship overall. Since, as we said, design is really visual communication. So you want to make sure that you are using color in a manner that really does communicate in a good way. Color divorce. You might be next to each other, but you shouldn't. Yes, that's so true. It seems like I have some graphic design friends that I hang out with occasionally, and we always talk about wouldn't it be so fun if there was like a podcast or a website or something that was like design, or like a kind of like a Dear Abby, like relationship help, only it was all in the context of graphic design pieces, like writing in and framing whatever their issues were, and like relational stuff, and then a designer would have to come in there and give their expertise and kind of do like relationship coaching and things, the design counselor, so to speak. So it's always kind of fun to come up with like fictitious scenarios. But color would definitely fit right in there as well. So, color combinations and what works and what doesn't, and what we wish would work. So we try to make it work. And then at the end of the day doesn't. Or, conversely, things that we think would never, never, never work, and we try it and it's like, oh, this is the best thing ever. So you never quite know what's going to happen. All right, so guiding principles for harmonious output. All right, so we are actually going to skip over a couple of these. Well, I guess we'll just we'll do this one, and then we'll kind of skip around a little bit, mostly because I do want to just quickly discuss the assessment, but we'll do that in a second. Okay, so match each of these. If you have the capability to annotate, you can match. If you don't, we can just kind of talk through it. And if you're watching via video, you obviously don't have the annotation capability, but you two can kind of talk and listen. So if we have a tint, what does a tint tend to, how is a tint created? What do you guys think? So a couple seconds again. What is a tint? Okay, it looks like someone in the chat box is saying plus white. Everybody's saying plus white. Yep. Okay, so we have a tone, and what is a tone? How is a tone created? Yep, plus gray, which leaves a shade is going to be plus black. So tints, tones, shades. So what I wanted to bring up is that I sent an email out about this via Canvas, and it seemed as though many people had many issues with a few select questions on the quiz itself. And so I looked through and I said, these are some very interesting questions, hey? So make sure that if you haven't checked your score on the quiz, that you do check it and, kind of hopefully check it in a celebratory manner. Mostly because there were questions in particular referring to tints, tones, and shades, and kind of what would be appropriate for what audience. And if you were designing for this, what should you look for? And a student did bring it up that in the sessions, we were talking very much about how it's important to think about who your audience is and kind of design from that in particular, as opposed to kind of making sweeping generalizations. And I think that is quite a good point and quite a true point. So I went through and kind of hand corrected out quite a few of those. And the other thing too that I hand corrected out was where do colors tend to appear on the color wheel, either warm or cool? Yeah, it's a wheel, so it spins. So it's not really a static, solitary, like a kind of stagnant thing. And so it's really not so much about where they appear as far as left and right and up and down. It's really more about, how they are created. And so generally, warmer colors are like those yellows, oranges, that kind of thing. And then cooler colors are kind of the blues, greens, all of that. So if you encountered any of those questions and you got those wrong, you should have also gotten, more points for that. But yeah, so like I said, really check your quiz and see how it's going. It's very interesting because I don't know if I brought this up in our session, but every time you encounter a quiz here at Independence University, for every question that it shows you, there are between 3 and 5 questions that it's picking from. And so it's all a very randomized pool, so nobody gets the same quiz. Well, at some point somebody will get the same quiz, but it's very rare. And so there are a few of you that pretty much got like 80% of the questions that were like kind of the ambiguous questions. And so many of you should suddenly look at your quiz grade and be like, whoa, I almost aced that quiz, because it was, you were kind of the unluckies, whereas some of you didn't get any of the questions. So it's an interesting kind of roll of the dice as far as what happens. And it's kind of cool too. I mean, I think the randomization is a good idea because it does mean that we kind of can mix things up. And I think it's good to have all that variety, but it's also kind of fun to see, what kind of goes through. The other thing too, not lots of, but a couple. Yes, I'd say someone in the chat box just wrote, wasn't optics published in 1704? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was another one that was a little iffy. So I think I think it might have been that the original manuscript that he wrote was in the late 1600s, and then it was officially published in the early 1700s. And I'm not 100% because it's been a bit since I referenced the website. But yeah, so it's another one of those tricky things. It's like, really, do we need to be that nitpicky? And I don't think we do, because dates that are separated by 20 years, I mean, in the flow of history, not a big deal. The important things to know are the concepts and kind of how it flows through. And then the probably most important thing is that you guys can put the concepts into practice, and you really can't do that in the setting of an assessment. An assessment is all testing what's easy, not like kind of easy facts regurgitation. And as far as it's good stuff to have. But will it, if it doesn't translate into your work, it's just kind of brain stuff. But I mean, it's good brain stuff, so you have to, know how to find it and such. So anyway, that's the quiz or the assessment. It is very good though, because we did get very high participation. So always good to see everybody, jump in and kind of get at it. All right, so we are going to skip quite a bit of this. And what we're going to do instead is jump in and take a look at the, oops, did I just stop sharing? I did. What I meant to do is hit escape to get out of here. We're going to take a look at the assignment 1 and go through a feedback and critique process with that. So let me, here are the answers, in case anybody's keeping score. So let me grab the classroom and just take a look at the assignments. So one other thing, if you are checking out your grade in the grade book of your assessments, you will notice, well, if you're watching the video, you won't notice because I might have updated it, but if you are here right now, you'll notice that I have not graded your assignments yet, and not to worry, I will be doing that this evening, but we're gonna give feedback, and then your grade should probably be fairly self-explanatory from there. So the assignments, just as a refresher, historic color usage. So you all got to do a little bit of museum online artist browsing, and then take what you learned, take who you found, and create business cards for the different artists or designers or makers in general. So the idea is that you would first look at their kind of look at their work and create a sort of mood board of what they had done, and then take those colors and kind of take how they had used the colors and put them into some sort of business card-ish composition that would really be designed to promote the artists themselves. So kind of a cool thing, you know, a cool way to look at a cool way to look at old artwork, but kind of reimagine it in a new way. So if you haven't done this assignment yet, I would encourage you to give it a shot. Mostly because it seemed like most people that did it had a really good time, or at least looking at your work, it seemed like you had a really good time. Maybe you had a terrible time, but your work looked fun. So there's that. But yeah, so kind of take a look at the assignment and definitely give it a try. Okay, so what we are going to do is go into read mode. Just look through kind of what people have submitted. So because we do have kind of an anonymous critique in class, all the names have been dropped. So, you know, no work is tied to any one person, but if you do see your work, be sure that you do listen in extra close so that you can first off feel super proud of yourself. And then also just consider a couple, you know, updates, tweaks, etc. that we talk about. So it's important to note that during critique, you know, these are ideas. These are things that I certainly think might make work stronger. But this is your work. You know, if you're like, what does Lisa know? In a lot of ways, you're very right. But I mean, these are your projects, so you can do with it. You know, you can take the feedback as you would like, and you know, implement whatever you want to. So it's, you know, it's up to you. So one thing we're going to be thinking about in particular with as we kind of do critique on these pieces is just kind of what we covered in the sessions last week. So really thinking about visual hierarchy. So is the most important thing feeling like the most important thing? We're going to think about color usage. So is the color being used in a logical way? And then we're going to also be thinking about filtering these cards through the lens of design principles. So is there contrast happening? Is there repetition of elements? Is there alignment that feels you know, connected and cohesive? Is there good proximity? So are elements, you know, separated out in an interesting way? So kind of, you know, think through those schemes. And one last thing, if you're watching via video and you're like, okay, fast forward, I'm going to get to mine. I would say resist that urge. You know, try to see what other people are doing. Mostly because it's really good to know what your peers have produced. You guys all have the same, you know, resources and same creative brief. But it's kind of fun to see, you know, just what people's creative minds have come up with. And then also, you know, just look and be kind of critical of what you're seeing. You know, think how somebody could do it better. You know, how could they make their color scheme more appealing? How could they make, you know, the layout more effective? If this was somebody that, you know, gave you their business card and it looked like this, what would you think? You know, would you say, oh, this is a really great designer? Or would you be like, what? Like they're a designer? I wouldn't have guessed. So, you know, kind of filter the work through those lenses too, because even though you're like, oh, you know, that might sound really critical, it's very good if you think critically about other people's work because it helps develop that eye and that sense of thinking, and you can then take that and turn that onto your own work, and it will be, you know, be something that you can use when you're designing to just, you know, make it that much better. So that was the big critique spiel, but let's get into it. All right, so it looks like somebody in the chat box has already typed. I like this, but I feel they could have used color for more contrast and drawing the eye. Mm-hmm. Textile artist, I'm assuming because it looks like a rug. I may repeat one of the colors on the element behind the text. Interesting. I like that idea. Yeah, it actually does look like a rug. I wasn't even thinking that, but I totally see that now. Yeah, and William Morris was kind of a big arts and crafts textile kind of guy. Yeah, very cool. So kind of color contrast seems like it's a thing that's coming up quite a bit. What I was actually thinking of, which is a little bit, um, it may or may not have a lot of, well, no, it fits, I think, is a little questionable here. Okay, I think that is mostly aligned. I would actually make the name of the artist and the title artist and writer just a little bit bigger so it feels more kind of like a thing. Right now, artist and writer definitely is getting lost compared to the telephone number and the email. But I would just make it bigger, and that's an easy fix. The other thing too is just something that I will I will be a little bit picky about because I know William Morris. Well, I don't know him, but I know of him. Um, we're not besties or anything, but he was very much into kind of handmade and things like that. So I would even challenge you to use a slightly less modern font. Something that feels a little bit more kind of, I would say even like a slab serif for things, because the serifs themselves would kind of channel the feeling of like this little fringy rug, kind of having something that just roughs it up a little bit. I think that might be kind of cool. But yeah, I love the rug. I love that we've established it is a rug. Now that I think about it that way, I can't not see it. And let's see, I like the fringe. It directs your eye to the info. Yeah, I mean, this is genius. Just like a tiny little compositional element that you just flow right. You flow right into it. So yeah, I think it's nice overall. Just I would say a little bit bigger. And like the students who are here are saying, kind of think about contrast in color maybe just a bit more. I don't think you need to be super, you don't need to turn up the volume a lot, but maybe just a couple notches, as far as how the colors are looking overall. All right, so here's another one, Francis Picabia. Like email Frankie. So I feel like for me, we'll see what the people in the chat box say. But for me, again, it's same deal here, just with the overall hierarchy. I love the visual elements and kind of how you're playing with them and how you're designing this. But I would just put the name of the artist. I would actually decenter it and then just make it big. So it feels like a thing. When it's just in the center, it feels kind of small. And if anything, just with the overall kind of flow of content, for me, my eye is almost going very much here and here, and I'm kind of losing these two. So I would kind of get it, bigger. Let's see, modern abstract art, minimalist. I'm missing the feeling from a personal font. Same font as previous. Yeah, it feels a little bit sterile as far as what the font is. I think I would keep it. I would keep this font for contact info because it's very easy to read. But just be a little bit more kind of inventive with the just with the font, and especially with the placement, to just give it that kind of extra pop of things. So remember, a business card is so tiny that you really want to, maximize your elements. And you can do some pretty cool things, but you just do it once because it is so small. So, kind of play with that. Let's see, I don't think you need portfolio. Yeah, I think I would remove actually all the designations like tel, email, portfolio, mostly because, we live in an era now where people see a website and they know what it is. I mean, they might not know it's a portfolio, but, they know it's a website. Same thing with email, same thing with a phone number. So I think it's a little bit repetitive. And we do have, like we said, kind of tiny amounts of space. So you want to maximize that as much as possible. So here's one more, Adolphe Moron Cassandra, who is, I think, a graphic designer, which is one of the team. But yeah, I feel like this one is working the best as far as the choice of font. So for me, this actually makes sense. I think it might be kind of cool if you went with maybe like a rounded sans serif instead of having square corners, mostly because these are so kind of rounded and this is so rounded. But I mean, I just love how this, this whole lockup is. I think it's working really well. And I think what's working here is that I think maybe wasn't so present in the other two pieces is you have the artist's name big, so it's significantly larger than everything else, and it's also a totally different color, and so it's, your eye kind of can't help looking at it because it's the one warm color in the whole midst of the cool dark color palette. So if you remember in our session last week, the girl with the red hat, what did we look at? We didn't look at the vase. We didn't look at, the wallpaper. We looked at her red hat. Same deal with this. What are we looking at? We're looking at the name of the artist kind of first and foremost. Let's see. The mountain like graphic directs the eye. Yeah, it's a little bit like the rug kind of. It's just, and when you can do these subtle kind of shifts, it's so genius because as the viewer, you don't even know that you're being kind of pushed in that direction. You just know that your eye is moving there. And it's, one of those sneaky design tricks that we all should strive for because, that's kind of where it's at. All right, so let's move through. So here's what the inspiration was for all of them. So William Morris, and basically, if this is kind of a practical note, but as long as you did these color schemes, everybody will get points, for this part of the assignment. Really, the big kind of push for grading and such will be more on the will be more on the business card design. So crazy calf worship, and yet you kind of look at this and you do see the business card. You see the business card here, you see the business card here. Whoa. You totally see the business card here. So super, super cool to see how these different elements come together. One thing, like I was saying with the type on the card, this kind of type would have been even better than just the kind of Helvetica, plain sans serif. And there's a really good font, I believe, called Cubano, so Cubano, and it has a nice feel like this, where it's kind of like chunky and rounded. And it's free, so maybe something to check out if you just do a search on it. But yeah, super, super cool to see how they kind of move together. And it's funny because I've always seen his name as A.M. Cassandra, and I never knew what the A and the M stood for, but now I do, which is kind of fun. Okay, so overall kind of main takeaways, if that was your work, just consider a bit more the sizing overall, so you really want to have a little bit more visual contrast as far as, when it comes to sizing. And, a couple of places, consider perhaps changing up the colors just to see, what else you might be able to look into. All right, so next look, we have Edgar Degas, artist. Yeah, so let's take a look at this for a second. I'm sorry, I was reading this and I was thinking, wait, is there a missing character? Okay, so overall, I think it's a nice, it's got a nice sense of visual hierarchy as far as the artist's name kind of being the main event. I think that looks good, and I really, really like this font. I think it feels, it feels fancy and old, and yet still kind of modern at the same time. I mean, it feels contemporary. It doesn't feel, old and boring. One thing I'm having a little bit of an issue with is just the overall spacing. So you really want to make sure, this is for everybody, that you really think about the margins that you're creating in your piece. So right here, it's very, very tight to the edge. It feels like the content's going to kind of fall off. So I think what might be a better use of kind of overall layout is if you have the content, just like kind of up here instead, so you have a little bit more, margin, so it doesn't feel, quite that close. And then what I would actually do is bring this border down. So again, maybe have the border come. Let me get a color that's not red because it's kind of hard to watch. So maybe have the border come down like right here. So it's not as big and not as tight against the word artist. So it feels like everything's a little squeezed in kind of awkward spots. And then that's leaving a lot of empty space in places that it doesn't make sense to have empty space. It feels kind of trapped empty space. So I would just kind of, hit the top of the card a little bit and have everything kind of shuffle down, and then, hit the bottom of it and have this kind of jump up there as well. You might even try, I think this is probably a stroke, so you might even try dialing down the point size a bit. And if it's not a stroke, just edit, transform, reduce the sizing of the boxes, just because it feels slightly large, and it feels like it's kind of fighting with the name Edgar Degas. So if I kind of squint my eyes and look, it's like I see this kind of tire track thing, even more than I see the artist's name. So you might want to kind of just work with itself. Mm-hmm. Let's see. I would adjust the tracking because the letters are running into each other. The kerning. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this feels a little awkward down here, especially since there's not an at sign. There's an E, and excuse me. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's the name. I was about to say I'm not quite sure. Does the font maybe not have it in at? But yeah, it feels like it's a little iffy. So I would just go through and make sure that it's kind of reading as you want it to read. It kind of looks to me like Gard Degas. And so I'm kind of guessing like garden and Vegas kind of smashing together. So you just want to, as you're adjusting the sizing, make sure that you also adjust kind of the spacing overall. But I like the font. I think you have everything here. I think now it's just guard the gas. Yeah. Yeah, you kind of, when you have words that are a little bit off in their kerning or in their tracking, then all sorts of words start to come out and you're like, wow, what is this all about? But yeah, so I think all the elements are there. Just kind of tweak them a little bit, and kind of just adjust the spacing overall. All right, so here's the flip side. I don't really get the pencil. I will say I think it's kind of a distraction. So and it feels very kind of pointy and I usually think of, when I think of Degas, I think of kind of a soft kind of impressionist, like dancers and things. So I don't know, I'm a little on the fence about kind of the appropriateness of the visual. I think the border is a nice touch, so I think that's working, but it kind of, I don't know. Let's see, blue reminds me of a zipper. Yeah, it is. When I squinted and it kind of looked like tire tracks. Now I'm kind of seeing that. But I mean, I like it as a repetitive element. And I think, if you kind of play with where the, kind of where it's going and its sizing overall, I think it might, I think you can keep it. I think you might have to just play with it a little bit as well. So, but the pencil, I'm not sold on. So, and I'm not saying, I'm not sold on it, so get rid of it. No, I mean, I think it could work, but I would just, figure out if it can be more intentionally connected to that blue line, or if it's doing something, if it's pointing to something, as opposed to kind of just being wedged at the moment. All right, so let's see the next one. Let's see, it could color the line. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could definitely do that. I'm actually super curious now to see what the painting looks like. I think we're looking at these in the wrong order, but it's okay. All right, so here's another one. You have an oil painter, HFL. So looking, looking pretty restrained, but very simple, very nice. I like the wax stamp. Yeah, liking the wax stamp. Yeah, I like it's a fun like little element. And to me, when I look at this, I suddenly read like, oh, like that's an emboss with a foil on it, and oh, this card would feel so cool if we could touch it. Uh, so I'm there. Um, a couple things to think about. This is just a small one. Info dot. I think there should be an @ sign there as well. So just kind of put that in there. I think this is actually great though. Just the overall visual hierarchy, kind of how you're keeping the name of the artist kind of front, center, bold. If this font comes in an italic face, I think it would be nice to have this as an italic as opposed to just a straight. Because if it was an italic, it would be just a little bit softer. So like a bit more like kind of a whisper. So that might be something worth trying if it's possible. If it's not possible, keep it. Don't try a fake italic, in software settings, because that always gets a little weird, but just something to consider. One other thing you might want to think about, I think this is all working fine, but I don't know if it would work better or if it would be a bad, not a good idea. But if you moved oops, I actually had tools that worked. If you move the name and then the oil painter down here, and then you moved the stamp kind of up here or up here, kind of had the, I think I actually kind of like it over here, but I don't know. You'd have to try. Just because I feel like the visual rhythm might be a little bit, might be just a little bit more pleasing. So, for example, your eye would come in, your eye would see the stamp, and then it would lead you into the name, and then, that would lead you into the contact info. So I feel like that could have a nicer flow. So, might be something interesting. And also, hyphens, you might want to consider the place of those. I'm not bothered by them. Yeah, are they in his name for real? Yeah, I don't know. It feels like it is a hyphenated name. A little bit like it could be like a law firm or something going into it. But yeah, so kind of, just play around, see how that might work. Like I said, I think it's working now, but it might be even better. And if that was something you tried already and you're like, I did it, that's okay. Just something that's, you might consider. All right, so here's whoa, here's the back. I will say I'm a little bit thrown by the kind of metallic gradient-like circles. I feel like we were in this very kind of classic place here, and then suddenly it went like a little bit disco. So I would be, again, I'm curious to see what the painting looks like. I would be cautious, and I would say probably take them out as far as, just as a visual element, mostly because it's so different visually than, all of this feel. The other thing too is it feels like it should be the same stamp, but somehow this one feels different. So this one doesn't feel quite as connected, and I'm not sure why, but for whatever reason, I feel like the stamp isn't working as well on the back side. So what you might almost want to do is maybe you could just do like H-F-L or something. Just have it like a monogram as opposed to having it be a stamp. So that might be something. So just to consider. I think it's not. Yeah, it's like the other. It's like the layout in the front. It's just something to try and see, because right now it is kind of reading more like a circle, a circle and a square type thing, as opposed to kind of a stamp. Or you might, and I have a feeling this is probably a thing, if you just did a Google search on vector. uh, vector wax splatters or something. I think you probably could find something kind of cool, which might be an interesting effect to have too. So that's something anybody could look for. Yeah, but I think the big thing are those circles. Feels like we kind of entered a different era. All right, so here's one more. Andrea Mantegna, a painter, and another another kind of cresty monogram, which I think is fabulous. So yeah, overall, I think it's working well. I think again, just a little careful on kind of placement of things. So this feels very close, and I'm not sure why it needs to be quite so close, especially since there's a bit of room, over here. And this too feels a little uncomfortably close. So I think you could probably get away with, I would say, even just, getting rid of this bar, and the line looks perfectly centered. Yeah, it's funny. The line looks centered, and then it makes everything else feel a little like conflicted. So I would say either get rid of the bar or move it over. So it's kind of over here. And apparently Ruby, if you heard any barking, was just giving her 2 cents of what she thinks. But yeah, so I really like this, and I really think this is working quite nicely too. But I would just kind of move them. Well, I would move the text just a little bit over, so that it feels a little bit more kind of connected overall. And you might even try, like we did with the other piece. Could you put the text down here, kind of large, and then the circle crest, up here, or center it. I think I actually like. I like how they're connected. I think it's more the bar is a little bit iffy. Let's see. I would use a different font for Painter. Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of switch it up a bit. What kind of font would you use? Like a sans serif or sans serif? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was. I would go with a sans serif too. So as soon as I said, "Would you use a sans serif?" I was thinking that's a total like bait question, because you could use something else and that would be fine as well, like a restrained serif or a slab serif. But yeah, I think a sans serif would be kind of cool. And what you might even do is, instead of having the line be where it is, could you have the line instead be here, and that might be kind of cool. Or could you not even have like a traditional line? Could instead you have you have that little like zigzaggy thing going around the circle? Could you have that here? That might be kind of interesting as well. So kind of really tie this, so bring this back and, put it somewhere else as well. So yeah, so interesting, just these little tweaks, and this is design. Unwind the border from the monogram, exactly. All right, so here's a couple more, or this is the flip side, I guess. Okay, professional painter. Interesting. I don't know that you totally need it. And let's see, it'd be more pleasing to the eye to make the lines the same size as. Yeah. I like the content. I like how it professional painter sounds more like a house painter. Yes, yeah. Well, maybe, side jobs. I like the idea of the contact information being on this side. That said, I'm a little bit conflicted that we see the name again and the title again. It kind of feels like we have like two cards. Like, this is kind of version 1. This is version 2. And the difference is that version 2 has contact information and doesn't have the monogram. So I think you need to be careful how you are presenting these overall. So, could you have one side, just be the monogram, or could you have, I like the monogram with the name. I think it's overkill to have it twice. So I feel like, you know, you could have all the contact information on the back side, and uh, uh, yeah, you know, kind of just highlight. No, you know what you could even do is, if you just centered the contact information, you know, put that here, and then on the other side, you have the monogram and name kind of in the same spot. So it feels cohesive because you're using repetition in the placement, and it comes, you know, it should come together in a good way. So I would give that a try. So remove the name, remove professional painter. It's redundant, and instead consider centering the contact information. And I would even do. It looks like you're using more of a bold font for this. So I would use that same one for this so that it feels connected. So, but yeah, I mean, it's, again, I like it. It's just these tiny tweaks, and the chat box is concurring. So, you know, we're in this together, so to speak. All right. So here's this is where the pencil makes sense. Okay, I get it now. Uh-huh. The background looks like the Smithsonian. Yeah. Oh, it looks like the Smithsonian logo. Yeah, I can see that too. I like the idea. Okay, pencil, you're selling me. Um, Interesting. All right. So here's another one. I'm going to guess this is the oil painter. Yeah, love the colors. And here's there's the Merlot color. Yeah. That's why the card was a bit disco. Yes, yeah. I like the Merlot color. I would keep that. And I would actually make the whole background just this purple color. And then just put, I'd put the monogram in there with the letters and just see kind of how you put that together. Mm-hmm. Okay, I think it could have gone front and center. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like the idea of this one too being, kind of that striping. Very nice. Ooh, this is tiny. The red fruit drew your attention, bothered me. It's funny because I noticed that too. This feels like it's something completely different. Like, and this is all like cohesive. You know, same tones overall, and then same tints, tones, and shades overall. And then this guy here is like, whoa, what is that? So that's this must be some sort of symbolic thing that, you know, in a lot of especially oil paintings of still lives, every object means something. So that one must be something quite big. All right, yeah. So overall, kind of big kind of takeaways if that was your work. Just work a little bit more on the spacing, and consider kind of where you place what. And then a little bit of refinement on some of the color choices and just the ways that you're kind of building up a textural sense. All right, so here's first one, El Greco. See, that poor person is getting their hand cut off. Yes, somebody is losing a hand, and I have a feeling someone might be losing a head right here. But I actually really like the cut that's been created in the piece overall, and I like too that it has kind of that. It's like it feels like a fresco to me. Like this is something that's kind of in a cracked old building. You know, we're just kind of seeing this come to life. So it feels interesting. Let's see. Be respectful of some body parts. Yes. Oh, and it's a toughie to think about as well. One thing you might try, and again, perhaps maybe you have tried this, I would just go a touch bigger just with this. So it was maybe just to right here. Let's see. It would be cool if you masked the background from those people. So she was reaching toward the name. Yeah, that would be kind of cool too. If you actually played with, instead of just, kind of having these be two separate things, how can like little bits and pieces of this kind of come through? Maybe there's like a head over here. Maybe this guy comes up, so it's just a little bit more kind of like reaching, whoop, pointing, doing whatever. But yeah, overall hierarchy looks great. And I like the flow, and I like how it really is kind of combined together. One other thing, this is like a super teeny thing, but okay, capital, lowercase, lowercase, lowercase. You might want to do all capitals, just for the sense of consistency, since they're all kind of a title. So something to think about. Okay. Here's another one, Phillips Koenig. I love it. I love that the theme of these business cards is like shapes on top of, it's like inverse frames, so that the picture is being consciously blocked by a shape, as opposed to kind of being framed by a shape. So pretty cool. Yeah, I think overall it's working really well. I like how the green moves your eye right to the website, and then how this is kind of coming together. So yeah, it gives you a taste of the work. Yeah, I like that you see the colors kind of pushing people in. It's like the sample people at Costco. Yeah, you kind of see a little bit. You see enough that you're curious, but not so much that you're like, meh, just saw the picture. It's when you are very clever with the kind of conceal and reveal. It does give you that. Yeah, it's a teaser. It makes you even more intrigued. Whereas if you tend to see everything, you're like, okay, I've seen it. But yeah, kind of cleverly masking things is a very cool thing. All right, so here's one more. Let me just say, I love your font for Henry Farrar. I think that's super cool. That said, I think this one is working the least. And I think it might be because kind of overall the placement, it feels not quite as solid. So here everything feels like it's locked in. Everything's kind of pointing to something else. Here it feels like each of these things is kind of doing its own deal. So you kind of have this like triangle thing happening, but these feel kind of insignificant. So I'm losing them a bit overall. So I feel like it might be more effective if the name was bigger, and then if you just played a bit more with the framing. So I mean, you could make the name super big. See, I just keep going back to the moon. Yeah, the moon is kind of the moon is something that just keeps on capturing you because it's kind of asymmetric and kind of moving through. But I think if you just, this is where I wish I knew what the picture looked like, but I almost feel like if you just move the box up slightly so that you could almost nestle I feel like it's kind of like rolling something. So if you just had the box up just slightly, so it's kind of more up here, you might obscure that moon, which would be a little bit sad, but it also might make it slightly more cohesive, and then kind of go from there. So if you were to make the box, or I'm sorry, make the name bigger, then I feel like you could probably put the contact info, just at the corners, so that it would feel a bit more connected visually to what was going on there. So if that, now that I've obscured everything, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so I think it's good. It's just not tight. And I think if you made something a little bit more, if you made the title a little bit bigger, it would be more visually dominant. And so you would be able to see it a bit more, and it would kind of call more attention. The other thing too, this is bold, this is light. So is there a middle ground? And I don't know that there is, but just something to consider as well. just to see, you know, how that connection can be made. But this, for sure, love this font. Had tried using this many times myself. But yeah. All right, so let's look at the pictures. So here's the El Greco. Oh, look at that. Here's an extensive wooded landscape. And then here's ooh. Oh, that's so pretty. Oh, and that moon really is a very big part of it. Boy, so I think it looks very cold, yes. I think in this one, you should almost go, if this is your piece, I would get the background saturated again, because this is such a powerful color scheme that I feel like when you desaturate it, when you wash it with white, it loses that sense of mystery. Whereas with this, if you could just keep this pretty much almost as is, and put oops, I'm not in draw mode, and put the white box, kind of right here, and then put your type in blue. I would even kind of just put it so it's, so the moon does become a thing. You could even nestle it right here, and then have the other stuff, just be in a line underneath it, and then kind of purposefully keep that place empty. So play on that moon, because it's such a cool scene. It's a cool scene in so many ways. But yeah, very cool. So, all right. Moving right along. It's fun though, isn't it, to see how. And I think it's kind of fun to see see the cards first, and then see what exactly they're kind of interpreting. Okay, so Vincent van Gogh. I like the font that you're using for the name of the artist, but I feel like you have to be a little bit careful with the green color and whatever this background is. So it kind of is like it looks like a kind of I was gonna say like a dirty texture, but that's maybe not the right word, but it feels kind of grungy to me, which I think is fine. But you just want to make sure that whatever this color is, can stand out to it. It just feels like it's really getting lost. So I would, it actually is a dirty texture in the painting. Oh, cool. Very cool. I would make the name, big, big, since it's kind of the main event. And then I would also take artist, kind of put it a little bit smaller, and then take these two kind of, or painter, or whatever the designation is, and then the two contact pieces. You could actually, just run them even, kind of down here. You put it, stack them, one on top of the other, as long as they're kind of feeling like they're in alignment with the name. I think that would just kind of be the good anchor. So right now they feel like they're a little bit floating. They're kind of on their own. And because they're kind of small and light in color, they're just, unfortunately they're getting lost in the shuffle. So I would make the name bigger. And if there's a more bold version of this font, like a heavier weight, I think that might be a good thing, just so it would get a little bit more, so it would have a little bit more weight to it, because right now it's very thin, so it's kind of prone to getting lost. Okay. All right. So first one, so bigger, just to get a little, turn up the volume. And see, you got sucked into the border in ID. Oh, no worries. We've all been there. All right. So John Singer Sargent. I think again, it's I would just kind of work on making the name a little bit, just a little bit bigger, so it kind of anchors it a bit more. And these are interesting, these are interesting little, oops, you're not gonna be able to see that. These are interesting little corners. I would just, could you make them maybe just even a little bit bigger, kind of a little bit bolder? It looks like package wrapping. Yeah, yeah. I like them. I want to see more. But more, I think you just need to anchor, anchor again with a big name. And then, figure out how this information is going to come together. You could almost put it, break the box, exactly. You could almost put it, here, or since you have these lines running kind of angular, you could use that to your advantage and put another one, right here. So you'd have artist, big artist name, more brown lines, and then the contact info underneath. So kind of segmenting out your layout. So that might be kind of cool. Yeah, and I like the idea that you're putting the title first. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And I like the dark background with the lighter type. It's got a nice sense of contrast. You might want to try putting artist in all caps, just because it might have a little bit more visual presence. That it might look strange, but something to consider. So. All right, so let's see this one. Charles Henry Alston. Very cool. See, now this one I think is working nicely with how you've arranged the info, because it all is kind of on this axis. So it feels like it's all put together. This one I would maybe move everything up just slightly. So maybe have it start right about here. Mostly because I think it probably is centered on the card, but it just feels low for whatever reason. So I would just nudge it up slightly, so it feels just a bit more connected overall. But yeah, I like the crayon. I'm very curious to see what this looks like. I almost want to see. Let's see, all caps for artists. Yeah, I can see that. Well, yeah, I can definitely see that here. I almost feel like I want like just a little like scribble or something, because this feels like chalk, and it's, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of begging for just a little bit of something, a little something happening, and I don't know what, but yeah, just something playful. All right, let's see. The painting is crazy abstract. Oh, gotta see it. Okay, so here's Van Gogh. Okay, I see the background. I see the lettering for sure, and the colors. Nice. Yeah. You know what you almost might do too, is this is a really interesting. Yeah, I love the minty color too. This is a really interesting kind of. Just if you zoomed in on that moment, maybe this could be what your kind of how your card is composed, and then you have, name of the artist up here, and then the other stuff. You might almost do it even, like this, like kind of 2/3, 1/3 or something, and then play with the name of the artist and the you have the artist name be big here, and then have like contact info down here or something, so kind of play with the colors in the background. And you probably could take a sample of this painting and then use it in something. The iris would be you have a flower crush on irises. Yes, yeah, I like the idea though, and I think you're definitely onto something with grabbing that background. I think that's a cool touch. All right, so let's see. Ooh, look at that. Oh, she's so elegant. Whew. Yeah, I get the, it's almost like the lines on the card are kind of like the strapping in the dress. Very cool. Ooh, very fun. Uh-huh. She thinks she's hot stuff. Oh, she does. Yeah. For sure. Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I would just amp up too with a couple. You see how these are all very like geometric. Well, you don't even see what I'm drawing, but they're kind of geometric-y, kind of blended shapes. So yeah, kind of channeling that feel, and what that could be. So very cool. Oops. Hmm. Yeah, there's so much energy to it, which is amazing. All right, so moving right along, Domenico di Michelino, woohoo, painter. So very cool. I like the idea of kind of the layered feel. Be a little bit careful with drop shadows. Drop shadows look amazing on screen, and when you go to print them, they may or may not continue to look amazing. So you want to keep that in mind as you're working, just because it's generally it's a little tough, and it's hard because when you see it online, they look so good. But when it's printed, it really is kind of one of those iffy things. So I feel like you could probably just get rid of the drop shadow and it would be fine. The other thing that you could do, which might be kind of fun, is if you look at this border, it has kind of a stripe effect to it. So instead of the drop shadow, why not do, one of these, just like right on top of the boxes, so it would kind of ground. Let's grab this one. So it really kind of ground those boxes as well, and kind of mimic what's going on in the painting. So I think that would be kind of cool. Let's see, the red and blue could be embossed. Yes, the red and blue could be embossed. Yes, yes. We need our specialty print techniques. Hmm. Yeah, so I would try something like that, so you don't have to rely, excuse me, quite so heavily on the shadow. But yeah, I like it. Very cool. I love this. John Bennett Ceramics. Um, just be a bit careful of this spacing. I think this feels equal, and then this feels a little like not quite equal. So keep on keeping on with that, and just make sure it's kind of the right proportion. You might even, if this font again has an italic weight, this might be a good spot to put it, just so it feels slightly less, just a little bit more like a whisper type thing. Okay, the lettering could be red and turquoise for more pop. Ooh, yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, because this is such a cool. Trying to find a color that you can actually see. This is, I don't think this is it. This is such a cool red color. So why not, make his name red, so it kind of pops out from what's going on. The other thing I was thinking of is, I love how simple the presentation of the text is. I feel like it would almost be even better if it was right down here, or maybe here, let me draw that a little bit better. It was kind of just like right here. And the reason that is because there's something about this curve that's kind of drawing your eye down, and this one kind of that goes up. And so I feel like just compositionally, it might look better to just have it a little bit lower and to just keep that white space. Yeah. Let's see, the side border should be wider and another color. Probably make it left border with turquoise and red. Yeah, I mean, pick up something in here too might be kind of cool. To just bring those different colors through. I think the restraint here, so it's kind of just this amazing vase, and then a very clean kind of look and feel. This feels really good. So just take the time to just tighten it up that much more. Just by moving the placement, maybe playing just a bit more with color, and that sort of thing. I think the drop shadow is actually working fine here on the vase. I actually don't even see it, so I think that's fine. Just kind of those little tweaks though in placement overall. All right, terracotta funerary plaque. I love. It's got its own. It's got its own calling card. See, without it, it would look like the vase is floating. Yeah, I think it kind of grounds it in a good way. So very cool. It's a plaque. I just love that it has its own panel, and I really like the faces of some of these people. Like, yeah, whatever they're doing, I'm sure they're not having fun. I mean, well, they are kind of having fun, but they're also um, working with someone who's no longer living. But it feels good. And this actually, I like uh, the slab serif because it does mimic kind of this column and this kind of blocky feeling and texture. So I think this one actually might be the most successful. I think this one's my favorite, but I'm just playing. But yeah, I like how kind of tight it feels. And what's nice too is as you're looking through their arms, these are also like kind of angular, and they point you and they flow. I guess it's their outfits flow right into the content, and so that in itself is feeling very cohesive. So that's good. All right, so is this something? Is this a thing? Oh yeah, there's the very cool. Oh, and it's actually been flipped. Oh, interesting. All right. Um, so here is another one. Victor Durand, designer. Woo-hoo. I love this background. This background is very killer. Yeah, the colors, I mean, it's wild and it's kind of hard to read, but I think it's working in a lot of ways as well. So, yeah, I think it looks good. I'm trying to think, would I make the content or the contact info a little bit, just a little bit thicker, since it seems kind of, it seems kind of like it could be getting lost against the background. Yeah, I don't know. It's such a dominant background that um, I feel like you kind of can't get away from it. So you really have to look at that background. Yeah, I think the name centered may help the background not fight. Yeah, you might try that as well. Uh, love how the V's are stuck in V's. Yes. Yeah, these. Yeah, this one right here. Looking interesting. Where's my drawing tool? That's kind of cool. Um, yeah, this one's an interesting one because it's just got so much going on that I kind of can't. Uh, it's like I don't really know. It's like chaos in a moment, but it's working as well. All right, so let's see. Claude Monet, painter. This one is a little interesting to me uh, because I feel like when you think of Monet, it's always so hard to read, kind of hard to see. He's like dabbing and impressionistic. Whereas this card is so kind of like in your face. This is like Claude Monet, the modern Monet. And I think it's actually working really well. And even as an odd like kind of take on what his work would look like, the modern Monet. Yeah, I don't know if this is just my screen or what's going on, but I like that it almost looks like there's kind of this subtle pixelation in the background. And I would, if this is your piece, if you have the ability to make that even more pronounced, it does feel very much like the modern Monet. Like if Monet were working today, he wouldn't be using oils, he would be using pixels, but he would still kind of be doing that like fuzzy thing that he does, only in a digital manner. And so kind of what would that look like? What would that look like if this were Monet? And could you play on that? Could you play on that even more? Yeah, you never know. Okay, here's another one. Gunta Stoltz, watercolorist. So fun. I love it. Again, it's another thing where you kind of look at it and you're like, I kind of can't read it, but I kind of am so intrigued by it that I want to read it, so I do, type deal. So yeah, I think it's working, and I think I really want to see what this piece looks like. It's kind of like a a train meets a music note meets who knows what kind of happening. One thing you want to just be careful of, and I don't know if this is a thing or not, is just make sure that you're not cutting off your W. It looks like it might be behind that orange box. So kind of just play with that a bit too. Okay, so let's see, Art Nouveau. Ooh, oh, this is the, okay, this is the Victor. Perfect. When you see this, you're like, oh yeah, that, I get it. Monet, very cool. And Bunta. Wow, that is wildness. And actually really cool as well, kind of how it works. Victor Toss color theory. Yes. Very cool. All right. So moving right along, Hans Hofmann. Ooh, very nice. So yeah, I think it's actually totally working for me. I like the bunny. The bunny is so front and center. The one thing you might want to see, if I don't know what this kind of what this picture is, if there's any way if you could kind of get the bunny just like here instead, that might be even better. You know, so its little head would happen right here, and then its ears could kind of like move around, and then here's its body, just so it would kind of bridge the content. But if not, I think it's working a good way. I like the idea too that there's a frame on this, so it has kind of a good encapsulation, and it's almost the complete opposite of the one that we saw that had the blockout of the image. So we're kind of seeing it coming through. All right, here's another one, Mondrian. Oh, such a classic. And so perfectly executed too in Mondrian style. So very cool. Everything from the font to the kind of the skewed version. Dali, artiste. Yeah, everything's kind of melting. Again, super cool, super great. Feels like it's really channeling the different, it's channeling that Dali where things are a little bit crazy and wild, and yet it's still very readable. And you can see that color is very consciously used in both of these to kind of navigate your eye through. So yeah, working well. So here's the pieces they were drawn from. Mondrian. The Dali where you're like, what? What is going on? And should I be concerned? Oh, and then Hans Hofmann. Oh, that's very cute as well. And a little bit scary, not gonna lie, but yeah. Okay, so here is another one, another John Sargent, good old JSS. So I think it's a little strange that we have the contact info at the top in kind of a line. I think it's fine to kind of play with orientation and placement, but I think here it's feeling a little bit difficult to read because it's so close together, and it's also so close to these margins. So I think it would make more sense to kind of go a little bit more traditional, and then just have the name itself be kind of the biggest idea, and then just bring the different pieces kind of down here as well. So I like, again, the dark. This is kind of a theme here, I think, with the Sargent, the dark background and then the light text. So interesting to see how that is kind of coming through. This image in the back, I'm guessing this is the back of the card. It feels very pixelated, and it might just be because of the export. But I would say if there's any way you could just have it smaller, I think that would be better, because then it wouldn't be quite as kind of blurry. It almost feels like you want to see what it is, but you kind of can't. So it's a little distracting. But yeah, I would say focus mainly on this front, make the name bigger, and then move this info down just so it has a little bit more of a good flow to it. And you may even put it in just a serif font instead, so it's a little bit easier to read. So when you have johnsingersargent.com, that's a lot of lettering. So you want to make sure that you can read it as easily as possible. All right, so here's another one. John Singleton Copley. Again, it feels very pixelated, so make sure that if there's a way to get a higher resolution image of this, or just not use the picture, that would be fine as well, to kind of just play with the color. Here you want to make sure that you're thinking a bit more about visual hierarchy, so kind of what's the most important thing, and then how can you indicate that? So is it, a bright color? Is it, are you going to jump into some of this orange stuff happening? Is it bold? Is it, a different kind of font? Is it the thing that's all in caps? Kind of what's the thing that's going to kind of grab you? Because right now, this is all good stuff, but it all feels the same. And so it's hard to know kind of what it is that we're supposed to look at. I think if anything, I kind of look at artist first, because it tends to be, it's the first thing you see. So it's the thing right now that's standing out as being the most important. Whereas I don't think, I think we can do a little bit better, and kind of have your eye navigate through in a little bit more of kind of an intentional way. All right, so here's another one. Asher Brown Durand. Again, great picture. Let's make sure it's high enough resolution so that when we see it, it can really be kind of a crisp piece. And for this one too, you might consider making it a vertical card. This is kind of a vertical picture. I just cover it up. But in that kind of thinking, you might have, a vertical card to go with it. And then same thing as with the other pieces, consider how you can really navigate your eye through. So maybe, this one has Asher Brown Durand, Asher Brown Durand, kind of 3 lines, and then all the contact info down here. So again, it kind of mimics, in this piece, your eye is being kind of drawn into the background. So same thing here, your eye is kind of being drawn down in how it's kind of coming together. So something to consider. Really important thing though is make sure you are separating out your content. So you want to be doing changes in color, changes in weight, changes in placement, so that it really feels like you kind of know what's most important, next important, etc. All right, so here are the pieces. Yeah, see, this is this looks very clear. So put kind of something like that into the piece instead. Ooh, I guess that is kind of a smudgy look to it. Interesting. Oops. There's the other one. Oh yeah, and this one's, that one's nice and clear as well. Very interesting. Right, moving right along. Here we have a couple, I love it. We have a couple art pieces first. I'm a little curious why the pink wasn't chosen, but we shall see. Okay, here's another one. I like it. Ooh, Uto Gayashi. Oh, that's very cool. I like that. I think I know exactly which one this goes with as well. Very cool. Yeah, I like the slash mark, as well as the idea of kind of the scripty fonts and tiny. Very interesting. Oops, I changed the Ooh, artist, udogayashi.com, email. Very cool. Um, yeah, this cat, I like that. I almost kind of wish that the cat was looking down at the content. If there was a way to, just put the put the info down here and move the cat up slightly, so kind of, here. I think that would be a nice way to kind of draw your eye in. But I guess you could say kind of it's going this way as well. But yeah, I feel like just joining the pieces together might be a nice touch if possible. And I was just thinking, yeah, I like it. He fits in the corner because the corner completes him. I know. I think if you move the cat, unfortunately, yeah, you kind of lose one piece with that whisker going. So maybe instead, if you move the content, kind of up here, that might be, just what kind of fits through. The cat in Alice in Wonderland. Yeah, this is the Cheshire Cat. Utogayashi. We will see. All right, so Pompei Batoni. I like the bow and arrow. Just make sure it's crisp. This looks a little pixelated, so you want to make sure that if you are using some sort of non-vector item, that it does have a high enough resolution, so it's kind of so it's not pixelated in the edges. For this one, I might make it just a little bit bigger. Again, the name, that's kind of the constant refrain, just like if possible, so it stands out even a bit more. Yeah, I love these little arrowheads that almost feel like they're moving to me when I look at them. Probably because I've been looking at my screen too long, but interesting. Okay, here's the info. Interesting. I'm a little curious as to why the bow and arrow lost its color. So I kind of like the idea that it would be the same, but I think the other thing too, just if it could be a little higher. So again, it kind of points up and in. I think that would be good to just kind of complete the composition. But yeah, I like the idea that it's just name on the front and then contact info on the back. Oops. Okay. Kawanabe Kayoshi. All right. Again, love the wings. Looking good. Ooh. Huh. Interesting. All right. Yeah, I think it's I think it's working. But I think it's not working quite as well as the others. Mostly because I kind of want to see it in this I kind of want to see it maybe in this font. And then the other thing too is these wings feel so kind of delicate. And then when we see this, suddenly it's like really harsh. So I would say, is there a way that you could almost, this feels harsh and a little bit distorted. So could you, as I'm doing a hand motion, but you can't see it, but could you swap the stroke and fill so this just has a stroke on it as opposed to a fill? I think that would just lighten it a bit. And the other thing that you might do is kind of just have the feathers, the tips of the feathers come up. So like you have this kind of theme in the other ones of, kind of just things emerging from the corner. So could it be same thing here, only it's just, it's of course these little bits zoomed in, and then have your contents kind of just nestled, up here or something. So it kind of be pointing up into the content like you have with the cat, like you have with the arrow. So kind of playing in that sphere again. So I feel like right now it's a little bit jumbled and we're losing the contact info. Whereas you had so much elegance in the other ones. So, how can you just channel that a bit more as far as what these are? So a little bit more of this instead of so much heaviness. So, but yeah, overall fun orientation. All right, Frederick Finch, fabric painter. Very cool. Yeah, looks good to me. It's extremely restrained, which I think is nice. And this one feels like it would be like a letterpress for sure. You might want to just move this info down just slightly to give Frederick Finch fabric painter a bit more breathing space. Just something to consider. Okay, I like it. Oh yeah, fabric. Okay, I get it. You like the starkness. Yeah. I really like that. And I like that it looks like it's woven. Um, I would say just take it one step further and actually put put it like uh, put it so it actually looks like it's been woven. So, over under type deal. Oops. Yeah, and I would take off the stroke as well, just because it's a little harsh. But I love when I love when the annotation tools are almost the right color. Yeah, so just kind of keep it. So this one's going to go this way, and it's pretty easy, especially if you took off the stroke, because you could just use another one of just another rectangle or whatever. But yeah, it looks really cool, and I like how it kind of bleeds off the edge. Okay, Fernand Léger, abstract painter. Looks good. It's a little tricky to read, but abstract. Abstract is always a little tricky to read, so that might be okay. So let's use our backside. Ooh, interesting. I think again I would remove the stroke. I don't know. It's not feeling abstract to me. It's feeling a little bit like distorted circles. What I might try, and I don't know, we're gonna have to look at the artist, see if we can see the artist before we make any statements. Ooh, oh, I like that. Oh, okay. Oh, I get the circles. Interesting. You might be able to get away with, if this is yours, you might be able to actually get away with the circles with the gradients on them from one of the first cards and use that instead, just because these have a really interesting kind of inner glow. So I get the circles now. I did not get them before. I get the circles, but I think you should still not distort them. I think they should be much more kind of roundish. And then, they could have some sort of interesting inside glow to them, or they could be kind of cropped in a certain way, or just even playing with opacity. So if you just layered up a bunch of circles and skewed the opacity so you could see the color coming through, I think that might be a bit more effective. What an interesting picture though. All right, so John Bennett, pottery maker. Hey, I think we know him. Very cool. Yeah, I like it. I'm not sold on the stroke. I think the stroke feels a little bit limiting. So I think I might just go with the kind of pure flood of color. Do you guys have any feelings about the stroke? I like just how each of these is such pure geometry though. So that feels kind of interesting to just have those colors sit on top of one another. For this one, you might even try this, so it's a little bit more kind of the golden section of, half, 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 3/4, all that. Okay. So here are the pictures. So cool. This one, I like this. It's very intriguing, and I don't really get it, but I like that she's sitting in a bouncy chair. Oh, and here's the vase. All right, so we're coming into our finals. Okay, so we have Harlequin with a guitar, vase with flowers, and water lilies. Ooh! Oh, what a fun font that is. Oh, love this. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I'd say this totally matches the feel, and as far as kind of what's getting put together. I would say one thing is just take where it says artist and turn down the opacity on this, just so it's maybe at like, I would say like 50%, so that this really stands out as the main event, and then this as well, and then artist kind of fades. So I think you could have kind of an interesting kind of advancing, recessing type feel. Ooh, I feel there might be a font named Claude Monet. Very cool. Yeah, I really like what's happening. Yeah, this is another great call. If you have an artist that's somewhat famous, do a search and see if there's been a font made of their signature. Easy way to put the card together. I love what's happening here. Well, you can't see that. I love what's happening here, and I love this font. I would get rid of this white box because it feels a little bit too harsh. And instead, I think I would just put um, the text just on the background. And I think if you made it even the purple color on the background, it might work. Or white, just find a contrasty color so it feels a little less, kind of a little less harsh. So the Claude Monet and the stripe feel very cohesive, and then it's like, ooh, hello, white box. So how can you kind of, interweave that a bit more? Ooh, okay. Oh, I love that flower. Very cool. Yeah, looks good to me. I think I would actually, yeah, the flower is so cool. This is crazy, I'm going to say this, but I think I would actually shrink all the content. So like no more than about this big, because then we'll just open up a bit more breathing space, and we can really have the name and the flower be kind of the main event, and pull your eye down. The image is so striking. Yep, yeah, the image is very striking. It's very cool. And I love how the font just kind of effortlessly flows out of it. So super interesting to see. All right, so Winslow Homer. I love good old Winslow. Ooh. Oh, okay. I think this is a different. We've entered a different realm. Sorry about that. I'm trying to get us back. Ah. Okay, here we go. Okay, and these are the three. All right, sorry. Here's different student. All right, so kind of cool. I like the picture in the background. I like the little rounded corner. I think you have to be careful because it's all very light and then it's dark down here. And just like you can't see what I just drew because it's so light, this is kind of getting lost. So I feel like you could actually get away with doing a little bit of like the Frederick fabric artist treatment on this, and just getting rid of the picture and just having the text be there kind of very light and restrained. And I think that might just read a little bit easier. The other thing too, you want to make sure that you're using color in a way that makes sense. So right now, artist and winslowhomer.com are the same color, and so it's making this feel like there's some kind of relationship. I think if anything, there's a relationship up here. So I think I would make this blue color so that the contact info feels like it's kind of connected. So, all right, here's another one, Winslow Homer. Ooh, I like the idea of a card that's like wavy in the corner. I think I'd actually remove the photo. It's so light, and it has, yeah, it's really hard to see, so it has kind of so much transparency to it. So yeah, I think I'd get rid of the color, or I'm sorry, the image, and then just make, open up space so you can make Winslow Homer really like big, and then I would just run the contact info kind of right under, and you could even do a kind of wavy thing. Kind of mimicking. Apparently, I have the thick marker out. Mimicking the edges. I think that might be kind of nice. All right, Winslow Homer. Ooh, I'm so curious about these pictures. This one I would again get rid of the picture. Unfortunately, it's competing so much with the type that it's kind of you're kind of losing both as opposed to gaining either. So I would just really concentrate on the type itself. I like that border. Yeah, I like this border too. I'm a little bit perplexed as to the color usage, mostly because everything feels like it's this green color. So I would say, what other colors are in the image, and what other colors can you use to your advantage? The green is nice, but I think we could add some more. We could do a bit better, and kind of get a better sense of flow. All right, so let's see the pics. Oh, it's so pretty. Oh, and again, this is like that winter scene we saw. These colors are so vibrant. So you could even do, like we've seen some of the cards other students have done, where you have the vertical. Oops. We have a box that you draw with, where you have the horizontal card, and then you could put, this picture in this side, and then put all the contact info, and the name and such down here. And because this, because this has like this sail that kind of swoops, that would be a natural kind of drawing your eye into the content itself, which would be very cool. Oops, let's get to that. Again with this one too. Love the images. Find a way to get the image in where it's fully saturated. So maybe like that other student did, you can kind of take a little inspiration leaf and, work with blocking and work with concealing and revealing, because it's such interesting. Even, if you have a vertical, or if you have a horizontal card, and then you just have a vertical stripe, and then you put the contact info, name and such, here. Oh, so cool how your eye would be drawn in. So you chose some really good stuff. Really think about how you can then compose with the content or with the picture, so it really feels like it's kind of all together. Yeah, even here, how can you kind of play with these ideas? Okay, so Edward Manet, landscape painter. Interesting. Be a little bit careful when you're using a fancy calligraphy font like this in all caps. It tends to be a little bit difficult to read, which I think is happening here. So I would say just make, constant refrain, make the name of the artist a bit bigger, and then I would just do landscape painter in, just regular uppers and lowers, as opposed to all caps. Interesting. Okay, so here's some more images. Ooh, these colors, it's so soft and amazing. Okay, oh, here's the, very cool. Wow. Okay, so here is first one, Sir Peter Lely. Very cool. I would have even pronounced that second one, or the final one. Oh yeah, looks great. Yeah, looks great overall. I like how you're really playing with the different fonts especially, and especially the visual hierarchy. I think in this bottom one is my favorite. The name being so large and then kind of leading you into the other elements, and then with those repeated triangles. So very cool. Yeah, overall I think they're all working very well. And you can see you can see what they look like. Oh. Whoa. Nice. Okay. Couple more. We have artist. Ooh. Ooh. Let's just move on. So can we see the picture one more time? See how can I, oh yes, I see it. Okay, so kind of the scribbled paint splattered brushiness. Very cool. I would say one thing, just separate out the content just a little bit. So John Marin, big, and then the contact info kind of down here. And you might even want to, actually no, I don't think you do. I think you just separate it out and it would be a good fit overall. You might want to do even more of these background scribbles though. It feels like it's kind of a cool effect. Or you might want to consider making this the brown color and then keeping this black, or making this blue, just kind of connecting the elements just a touch more, so that they really have that kind of replication factor. Oh, oh, this font is so hard to read, but I think it's totally working. As you can see, here's the picture. Yeah. Sorry, that's for whatever reason, this one I feel like I just want to keep on going back and forth. But yeah, very cool. I would just say, again, make the artist name just a bit bigger, so it really feels like it's, the main event. And I think you could even actually put, I really like the idea that you could have, you could have a big box kind of here, and then have Miro's name kind of up, so it would be much larger, and then the information kind of coming down. Yeah, I like that. I kind of almost want to see perhaps one more little like piece coming off of there. I don't know. But yeah, so it looks good overall, but just a couple adjustments with the visual hierarchy to make the name pop. Manet. I think again, I would just make the name bigger. Make the name really feel like it's something different than the rest of the type. Right now, it really is. It's feeling like it's getting lost. So get the name big, and then put everything down here. And I would actually flush left align it, so it feels again more kind of just more connected overall. So the layout flows a bit more. Oops. And apparently I've lost the ability to change slides. Oh, no, this is the end. Oh, perfect timing. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our feedback time and the end of our class, coincidentally. So we didn't get to color vibration, but it's okay. We will do that tomorrow. I think it was more important that we kind of look through what came in and gave some feedback and such. So if you are watching and your work was reviewed and you're thinking, I think I would actually really like to give that a try, by all means, you can give it a try and resubmit, and I will be all for that. Otherwise, if you want to just kind of keep it as is, your choice as well. You are the designer, so so you can you can do or not do what you would like. But yeah. And if you have any questions too, you can always feel free to ask me for further explanation and such. But yeah, otherwise I think we will call it a day. And thanks, guys, for a great first session of week 2. Hopefully yeah, hopefully you're having a good week so far, and things are moving right along. So tomorrow and tomorrow's session, we're going to hit the assignment and the assessment and the discussion pretty hard. So we make sure everybody knows what's going on, what's expected. So be sure to tune in and check that out as well. All right, well, thanks, guys, for those of you who attended. It was great having you. Good participation and great critique, for sure. All right, well, take care, everyone, and I look forward to connecting with you either tomorrow or in the second recording of week 2. All right, have a great day.